What's up, welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Vince Staples' 7th album, Crybaby. Vince back with his first album in 2 years. His previous effort, Dark Times, was in fact his last album on Def Jam following a 10-year run at the label. Crybaby is Vince's first album coming to us via Loma Vista in conjunction with Vince's new label, Section 8 Art House. I love Vince Staples' 7th album, Crybaby, because once again, Vince has proven why he's one of the most versatile rappers we have right now. This is the Vince Staples rock album. The production here is undeniably lush as Vince brings in guitars to his music like never before. This is a really compelling switch for Vince, who had been going down a more melodic hip-hop path the last few releases, but this 180 towards rap rock is incredibly effective. Vince Staples has always been a lyrical artist, but usually more of an introspective person reflecting on himself and his past and his upbringing. This time around though, Vince is giving us his commentary on American society. Lyrically, you would compare this to Pimp a Butterfly. You compare this to Joey Badass's All-American Badass or Run the Jewels 4. Vince is sharing bigger thoughts than he ever has before in his music. And because Vince as a rapper remains incredibly compelling and unique with a very distinct voice, the message resonates. I think almost all the songs here are really effective, but my clear highlight has to be TV Guide, which is just super groovy and has an impeccable chorus. But man, shout out Vince. I mean, I've been rocking with Vince a long time. I mean, Hell Can Wait, you know, that debut EP. There was some rock there, some guitar there, at least I should say. And I think that's actually kind of the clearest connection point, production-wise, music-wise, to what you get on Crybaby. But it's been such a journey with Vince. He's put out a lot of music, but his willingness to change and deliver compelling music in different ways is unique. You know, apart from someone like a Tyler, there's really not a lot of high-profile rappers doing it like this. You know, you think about what Big Fish Theory sounds like, and you compare it to the peak of his more melodic rap on something like Ramona Park Broke My Heart, and now you have his rap rock with Crybaby. He's demonstrated a lot of capability at this point. But of course, the most important thing when you're a versatile rapper is, do the songs stay good? And of course they do here once again. That first single we got recently, Blackberry Marmalade, kicks off the album, and it was very clear from the jump when you heard that song and you heard that production and how present the guitar was, that this was going to be a different take from Vince once again. That guitar riff is very stark. You have these very quick snares present as well. Vince, more of a gliding flow. You know, for the most part, he's still rapping throughout this album. I'd say it's almost like a mid-tempo rap. It's not the hardest he's ever rapped, but it's also not the softest either. It's definitely more middle for him. You know, previously, I think when he take it a little too far in the other direction, I was a little less interested, like that Vince Staples self-titled album, kind of the first time he went on a much softer path. And I think if you went like super aggressive and super hard the way you think of like with Summertime '06 or something like that, maybe it wouldn't have matched the production here on Crybaby as well as it does. So I think overall, like his breath control, the speed of his flows, all seemed really precise throughout this album here. Maybe a bit more talky at times. I think verse 2 on Blackberry Marmalade, it's almost like a nursery rhyme type cadence in a certain sense, but I think it works. It's a fun new flair for him. You know, I think a song like that still lyrically very much in the Vince wheelhouse we know in terms of that personal brand of street talk, reflection, that sort of thing. Go Go Gorilla, this is more of that melodic Vince, which of course we've heard to great effect on his most recent albums. Guitar here, very noticeable, very strong once again. To me, the chorus is a bit repetitive, a bit simple on this song. That's my biggest note. It's perhaps the weakest chorus on the album, but the outro I think is pretty cool. These sounds of the jungle, of these monkeys and apes and whatnot making noise over these simmering guitars, pretty cool. Next up, you have the second single, White Flag, very groovy bass. Flow here is very smooth. The Running Man, guitar wise, it's a little grungier. The second half, you get this brief quiet moment, but overall it's pretty high tempo for Vince the entire time. As I mentioned, TV Guide, hard as hell. I love the guitar here again. I think it's tremendous, just super groovy. Chorus is absolutely dynamite, and throughout these songs, Vince is really, speaking to not just race in America, which has been in his music here and there, usually from his own personal experience, experiences with the police, experience, on the streets in his early years. That's still present here. He's also kind of speaking to like capitalist pressure and manipulative marketing and just very, very higher level things, and I guess more class conversations and stuff. It's compelling because it never comes across as preachy when it's Vince. It's still over good and, compelling music. I think the fact that the guitars are still very present and engaging the entire time, you could definitely draw some parallels to a group like Rage Against the Machine, which definitely shares a bit of a lyrical message with Crybaby. The Big Bad Wolf is another strong highlight for me off this album. I love the glitchy record scratching you get at the beginning, very Tribe Called Quest, very primo, but the guitar here is still very groovy. I think the horn flare is great. Love the chorus here. Only in America, you can probably guess what the song is about there. Flows a little crisper from Vince. He's a bit self-reflective in the beginning about how he kind of came to music and how that helped, save him in a certain sense. And that God Bless the USA hook, it's tight, it's brief, but it's effective around the rest of the verses. Do You Know the Devil? Perhaps my least favorite song. I think it's just okay, not bad by any means. Cotton, I think, is another strong highlight. I like those kick drums. I like the keys. Slower flow, the tempo does pick up a little bit, but the chorus, I think, is very strong, very tight. And then lastly, you have 7 in the Morning. Very eerie whistle and bass, haunting chorus. Effective outro for sure. Yeah, man, Vince, he continues to just be such an impressive rapper, nearly peerless at this point. We know how popular the West Coast sound has been in terms of rap conversations lately, ever since Kendrick, of course, shined a huge light on it with everything with Not Like Us and GNX as an album and things like that. But Tyler, the Creator, as he diverges more from the traditional stuff there, Vince, in many respects, is the one really, holding that standard, bearing that and whatnot. But the fact that he's able to do that while really changing the type of music he makes is just really exciting to me. And it's cool because you're kind of getting the best of both when it comes to Vince, where you're getting compelling, fully formed, effective albums as an album. And then within those albums, there are great songs that take away, right? I think clearly TV Guide is my highlight off Crybaby. Etouffee was the obvious signature song on Dark Times 2 years ago, one of the great Vince songs in my opinion. Ramona Park broke my heart. I was littered with, bangers to take away, whether it was Magic or Slide or Lemonade, right? And the list goes on. Bag Back, North, Hell Can Wait, almost all those tracks. Like there's so much always to take away and just enjoy in the moment with Vince. But if you really sit with the projects, there's a compelling story there. And it's cool that this is a bigger story, a more expansive, less personal in a sense story from Vince with Crybaby. So this is definitely one of my favorite rap albums of the year. Definitely one of my favorite albums straight up of the year. I assume this is going to make my top 10 albums of the year as we're approaching the halfway point. Really happy with this. Looking forward to seeing Vince on tour again. I've seen him twice, including his most recent tour last year. Unsurprisingly, he is great live. And it's cool that he's now independent, right? Had that Def Jam run. Def Jam seemed to be happy with him, even though he was never like a megalith, massive rapper by any means. He never sold tons and tons of records. And from Vince's own commentary, he never really chased that. He never really wanted that himself. He would pursue a certain level of fame intentionally. But now, I think his tour base, his fan base is established enough that he can really kind of do his own thing. And I'm curious to see what else he does outside of music. He had the Vince Staples show on Netflix, which ran for 2 seasons. That show has since concluded. A little bit of supporting work here and there, like on Insecure, but there's definitely room for him to take on some other stuff. I'm curious if he still wants to do that. We'll find out, I guess, in time. But let me know, what you think of Vince Staples' 7th album, Crybaby? What did you like most about it? Let me know. And for more music reviews, more rap reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time.